You're looking at the EA75 from Epomaker. This is a 75% gasket-mounted mechanical keyboard with good flexing and connectivities that include wired USB-C, 2.4G, and Bluetooth, all powered by a 4000 mAh battery pack inside. I think 4000 mAh is just about enough to power your keyboard for about a week, but there are lots of factors to consider. The keyboard looks really dark with the black housing and gradient colored keycaps, but more on aesthetics later on. In terms of gaming, this will perform given its all-key anti-ghosting and 1000Hz polling rate. I did not experience any issues with lag, delay, or interferences with my keystrokes. If you're a casual gamer, this keyboard will perform and is pretty much reliable. Hi, I am Daniel. I forgot to introduce myself. I am with the Biboyharanero team and we review everything PC related. Subscribe so you're always updated with new releases. This features a knob that controls RGB, which I will go over in more details in the build segment of this video. My unit came with the Leobog Reaper switches with 45-gram springs within, a perfect balance for typing and gaming in my opinion. These are pre-lubed for smooth keystrokes and I think they're made really well for a budget set of switches. In the event you don't like these switches, freely replace them with your preferred ones because this has a full universal hot swap south-facing PCB and it accepts 3-pin or 5-pin switches. Onto the software, you get a tab for key binding with lots of customizable configurations and insertable media buttons. You get another tab for macro recording where you could also insert mouse buttons. The next tab is for LED customization where you can choose from lots of RGB modes and custom colors. You get 2 extra tabs for more lighting options. And lastly, you get the system settings tab which is pretty much self-explanatory. I would not change the key response time because level 2 is the default on many keyboards I've tested in the past. Let's move on. Box contents include the keyboard, cable, documentation, key puller combo, 2 extra Leobog Reapers, and a PET dust cover. The cable is generic plastic-coated cable, and I have no complaints about it. And speaking of complaints, I always complain when there's no PET dust cover. I'm glad that Epomaker always adds in PET dust covers for their keyboards. Not always, by the way. Most of the time. My home is fairly dusty with all the cars running by outside, which causes my keyboards to have more dust buildup. The knob here is made of both plastic and aluminum combined. And as for its tactility, this I think is where it lacks. There is a clicky sound to the knob. However, there's very little friction or tightness when twisting. Some people may prefer this smooth knob, but some others would like more tactility and tightness. The keyboard has a full plastic housing and weighs about 1 kilogram. It's relatively heavy for a 75% layout. I think this is due to the internals having 5 layers of dampers within. You get a pour and sandwich foam, a XP switch pad, a PT insulation film, along with some more bottom padding. Now, looking underneath the keyboard, you get rubber anti-slip pads and a pair of 2-level kick-up feet. The connectivity switch is positioned conveniently beside the knob for easy access. Then at the top side of the keyboard, you get the USB-C input panned to the left side and the dongle port panned to the right. One nitpick is the rattling of the power switch. It's not bothering for me though, but tapping on the keyboard can result in some slight bit of rattling by the right side. The keycaps here are cherry profile double shot PBTs with side printed legends. The legends are clear and relatively huge compared to other side printed double shot keycaps I've seen. I also like how the RGB glows on them really well, and there's very little glare from the RGB lights under the keycaps because of the switch's RGB diffusers. The stabilizers are fairly tight with very minimal room for improvement as some stabs still do wobble a tad bit. They're also pre-lubed, however, I would add more dielectric grease because the stabs very slightly rattle still. Now onto the Leobog Reapers. These have 45-gram springs within, and I think they sound clacky, but when paired with a FlexCut PC plate and FlexCut PCB, they sound really thocky on the EA75. I think I like the sound of the gray woods more, but here's a quick sound test. This is offered in 2 color options. You get a light white color with some blue hues to it and this dark color that we have. I think both will suit lots of PC builds. There's no indicators anywhere, so activating caps lock will light it up in static white. Then activating win lock will do the same. Aesthetic wise, this reminds me a lot of Aula keyboard designs. Almost like an Aula keyboard too. And by the way, Epomaker sells some Aula keyboards as well. This features a light bar beside the backspace key with customizable RGB modes. And by pressing the function key and right light shift, you can change the modes of the light bar. With the function key and backslash, you can change the modes of the backlight. Then, you can also change the lighting modes on the sidebars with the function key and left shift. Overall, I think this adheres to market standards in terms of specs, performance, internals, and aesthetics. Links are down in the description below, so go check it out. This is Daniel with the Biboyharanero team. Do not forget to not subscribe.